Okay, so you have the 0.45. So every x value you plug in will give you a different y value, just like on the graph. If you go to an x value, let's say if you go to -4, if you plug in -4, you should get -3. If you plug in -5, your answer, your y value, should be -4. So each x value, if you get the right y value, it ends up right on the graph. Okay. Does that make sense? All right. That's why you have an infinite number of solutions, because that just keeps going and going and going, and it keeps going the same thing in the positive direction. That just keeps going and going and going. So any x value, even if you plug in a fraction, if you plug in x equals 1/2, then y should equal 1 1/2. So it'll always work out. All right. Any questions on this one? All right. Okay. So let's say if we have everyone's still writing. Y equals -x/3 minus 1. Okay. You see out of all 5 of those, which ones appear on the graph and which one doesn't. Let me zoom in a little bit. Okay. So 0, -1. X is 0, so you don't go left or right. Y is equal to -1, so you go down 1, and that appears on the graph. 3, -2. X is 3, y is -2. So we go to the right 3 and down -2. It appears on the graph. 3, 5. X is equal to 3, y is equal to -5. So starting here, x is 3, y is -5, so we go down 5. Too far, it's not on the graph. So we know that it's not a solution. Same thing with 0, -5. X is 0, so you don't go left or right. Y is equal to -5, so you just go down 5, which is right there, and it's not on the graph. So with -3, 0, x is -3, so we go to the left 3. Y is 0, so that means we don't go up or down. So -3, 0 is right there. Okay, so that means it is a solution. So these 3 are your solutions because they land right on the graph. All right. So any questions on that one? All right. Okay, so this will actually be scanned with your work, with your class notes.
Are we also going to have to figure out how to make the graph first and then answer these with the 0 thing that you did? Is that...
Well, with most of them, they'll ask you to either identify if these are solutions or to make the graph. I haven't seen any of them where you have to do both.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the x and y intercepts. Now the x-intercept is just the point where it crosses the x-axis, and the y-intercept is where the graph crosses the y-axis. X-intercept, where the graph crosses the x-axis. And your y-intercept is just where your graph crosses the y-axis. Okay. Now to solve for 1, you just make the other equal to 0. So let's say if we were trying to solve for our x-axis, you just make your y equal 0. If you're trying to solve for the y-axis, you make your x equal 0. And then you solve it. So to solve for the x-axis, you just make your y equal 0.
Solve for the x-intercept.
Hmm?
For the x-intercept, is that the same as x-axis?
Oh, x-intercept, thank you. Make your y equal 0. And to solve for your y-intercept, you make your x equal 0. Okay, so let's say, for example, for, let's say, y equals 3x plus 17. Find the x and y intercepts. Okay, so for your x-intercept, you make y equals 0. Okay, so that means instead of 3x plus 17, you have 0 equals 3x plus 17. And you solve for x. So if we subtract 17 from both sides, so 0 equals 3x plus 17. If we subtract 17 from both sides of the equal sign, that means 3x is equal to 0 minus 17, or 3x is equal to negative 17. Now if we divide both sides by 3, that means that x is equal to negative 17 over 3. Okay, so that means your x-intercept is not just negative 17 over 3. It's the point when x is equal to 0, y is equal to negative 17 over 3. So that's your actual x-intercept. That's the point where if you drew the graph, it would cross your x-axis at that point. Okay. And for your y-intercept, you just make the x equal 0. Okay. So instead of y equals 3x plus 17, is y equals 3 times 0 plus 17. Okay. So 3 times 0 is just 0, so that term disappears. So you have y equals 0 plus 17, or just y equals 17. Okay, so that means for your y-intercept, oh, this should be flipped around. So So for your y-intercept, your x is equal to 0 and your y is equal to 17. There we go. Wait. That should be x. There we go. And no one caught that? No
I
one?
just didn't say anything. I just whispered it.
Yep, so that should be x there. I know I'm so used to solving for y, sometimes it's really easy to do that. Okay, so really all this is saying is that when y is equal to 0, x is negative 17 over 3. And this one's saying that when x is equal to 0, y is equal to 17. All right.
So the pair wouldn't be negative 17 over 3,
Mhm.
negative pair of 17.
Yep, exactly. All right, so any questions on that one? All right. Okay, so trying to see if we have time. I'll save the inequalities for next class. Don't want to try and rush anything.